Hey everyone, my name is Matthew Reed, and for my poster, I'm comparing survey techniques for kit foxes. Kit foxes are small canine species that inhabit desert and semi-arid regions throughout the southwest United States. However, over the past few decades, they have decreased throughout much of their range due to human development and habitat fragmentation. They're nocturnal and have a cryptic coloration, which makes them hard to detect. So all these factors make results in the need for us to assess the efficacy of survey methods for estimating their abundance throughout their range. So the first method that I looked at were Scat deposition surveys. And these surveys involve walking along transects and counting the number of counting the scat that is deposited on it. Once scat is collected, you mark the location and the species on a GPS, and you could walk both ways or use scat detection dogs if you wanted to decrease the number of missed scats. Some of the pros associated with this are that it had the highest detection probability of all of these techniques. You could verify the species using DNA. It was relatively inexpensive survey method. It was appropriate for large areas, and it did not involve handling animals. We can minimize the stress we put on them. Some of the cons of this are that individual animals can be detected multiple times along a transect. The road type can influence the success of this technique. Kit foxes are more likely to leave scatter on unpaved roads than paved roads, and weather conditions could deteriorate the quality of the DNA found within the scat. The next method that I looked at were scent station surveys, and these involve setting up scent stations at set intervals along the transect. And these scent stations consist of a circular area that's cleared of vegetation and has a layer of sifted soil or sand on it. And in the center of that, a plaster of Paris disc with that's saturated in fatty acids is placed. And some pros associated with this survey technique is that it had a high detection probability. There was relatively little effort to conduct them, and you didn't have to handle the animal. But some cons were that it was most sensitive to weather conditions. Rain would wash out the sand and make you unable to be able to read tracks. This was the most expensive survey method, and there was a high potential for observer bias and misidentification of the tracks. Another method I looked at was trapping. And this involves physically handling and capturing the animal. And for kit foxes, this is typically a tomahawk live trap, as is seen in this picture over here. A wire box mesh trap where meat is placed in it. They enter the trap, trigger a plate, and the door closes behind them. So some pros to this are that kit foxes are actually easily live trapped compared to other canines. And individuals are only detected once along a transect. Some cons to this are that it can be an expensive survey method, and you have to physically handle the animal, which can lead to stress, injury, or even mortality. So the last method that I looked at were spotlight surveys. And this includes riding in a vehicle down a transect with two observers in the back. Each observer scans their side of the road, and when an animal is spotted, the vehicle is stopped, and the species is recorded along with the location, the distance from the vehicle, and the bearing from the vehicle. So some pros to this method is that it's relatively cheap. Individuals can only be detected once along a transect, and you don't have to handle the animal. Some cons, though, is that it had the lowest detection probability of all these methods. It was limited by topography and the number of roads that were available, and there was a lack of strict standardization of methods. So after comparing all these methods, I determined that scat deposition surveys were the most effective method for estimating kit fox abundance. This method allowed for a high detection probability while being relatively inexpensive and minimizing stress on the animal. Down here at the bottom, I have my references: Dempsey et al., Harrison et al., Patton, Smith et al., and Warwick and Harris. All these papers were very helpful for me in putting together my poster, and I want to give them a thank you. And thank you to you for watching this video, and I look forward to reading your comments and getting back to you.